December 24th, 8:55 on this outstanding Tuesday. Talk really quick about the market, some names I'm looking at and go from there. Take a look at the market futures, slightly in the green. They've been bouncing around. They were solidly in the green early in the morning, reverse course a little while ago, and then found a little bit and kind of just treading water here. Big news overnight was China. So they already mentioned some stuff Sunday night, but then last night was cutting rates, reducing reserve requirements for banks, and some other initiatives to help stimulate their economy and their target for 5% GDP growth. Uh, all that, considering where the market has been, was boded well for China markets, up 4%. Just a nice rally. And what's that done? It's put a bit in a lot of all the China ADR stocks. You take a look at the SPY. I was talking about on yesterday afternoon's rant, the tight range, 0.3% trading range yesterday. Similar range on Friday, a little bigger range. And then also, despite the big gap we had, which was the largest gap at all-time highs in history on Thursday, it was also a tight trading range on Thursday. So typically when you see tight range like that, I mean, it's like the tug of war. But considering we're at all-time highs, you would think that bodes well for more highs. So maybe a little more chop here today. You had Fed Governor Bowman, the lone dissenter on the Fed cut vote last week. She has a speech. I don't know if she had prepared remarks or whatever she's gonna, or a discussion. That's at 9 o'clock, and then Thursday we have Fed Chair Powell speaks at the 10-year anniversary of the Treasury meeting committee or something like that, and then Friday we have PCE data. But then outside of that, there's not much in the way of catalyst. So despite, we have geopolitical tensions, lots of headlines, of course, in the Middle East, but it seems like every year, every month, there's some new conflict or some reason to sell stocks, and stocks just keep going up. So we'll see how things play out. I keep saying 571 or so on the SPY. That seems like some resistance. 565 on the SPY. If we get some decent selling today, if we break under 565 on the SPY, I would probably look for some some more hedge puts. All right, that's the SPY. Unfortunately, with the market chopping around yesterday and Friday, the small caps still can't find a bid after their 2% rally last week. So hopefully those can start to outperform. Some of the reason the biotech sector just couldn't get going yesterday, and IBB closed near lows right at its 50-day moving average. So biotech's one of my favorite sectors. Those can start getting a bid. I think that'll bode well. All right, so individual names. First, I'll talk about SE. And I was posting SE last week, and I had the strikes in August after their earnings, and the earnings were kind of like a mixed bag. But then you start to dig in deep and see that their Shopee segment was finally going to be profitable after being subsidized from the other two segments for years now, and kind of that's like their next leg of growth. And once they can get that under control and start driving some profits, I mean, I wouldn't say the sky's the limit, but I use the analogy with Amazon a lot because Amazon was, and I hate to use analogies with obviously trillion-dollar market cap companies, but when you take a look at what Shopee is, Amazon had a similar situation when they were scaling out their Amazon Prime, their delivery, and everybody said that their delivery business, which was losing money, was going to just cause them bankrupt. There was a lot of articles I remember back in the day, and their Amazon Web Service business actually pretty much subsidized the ability for them to scale out enough until they were able to drive now it's insane profits. I'm not saying the same thing here with Shopee, but it's a similar kind of situation where they don't have they weren't profitable on their e-commerce business, but now as the scale has grown, and they were doing this back when I made it one of my top 5 stocks. I don't know what year it was, 2018, 2019. They were losing money, but they were offering free shipping and all this to get the scale and to get the customers. And now that that's entrenched, now they can start reaping the rewards. Anyway, enough rants on SE. So I added some October. I was looking for weeklies, but I was a little nervous on Friday to add some strikes, and my September 90s expired. So I wanted to get something into this week, but I was worried about Japan and possible Asian market selling off overnight Sunday into Monday. And then sure enough, that doesn't happen. It was the reverse, and SE gapped. I didn't want to miss the move over 90, so I got some October strikes, got the monthlies. It's over here gapping. It was at almost near 94 in the pre-market. I'll probably lock some of my October strikes. I'll probably be over 100% at the open. And then I may look for some November strikes. So the Octobers aren't going to encompass earnings. But I said it back in August. I think it's an over $100 stock at some point. Probably this China stimulus and the rally in Asia markets probably just going to expedite that move. So really like SE. I think it trades over $100 in the coming days, possibly coming days, but at least in the coming weeks. And then 110 or so, I think, in a couple months. All right, so that's SE. Visa, I had the spec puts last week. Despite the stock selling off, those did not play out. And then I added some puts into next week, so the October 4th. And then, sure enough, what happens, even with the market pulling back a little bit at the open yesterday, Visa trades on its own, just squeezes. And it was just nonstop. Well, I wouldn't say nonstop, but Visa's not the most volatile name, but it closed up nearly 2%. Then after the close, you have the Department of Justice coming out with a possible antitrust suit based on their debit card business. I'm not a big fan of antitrust monopoly suits. I think, sometimes you got to let the free market play its course, unless there's some shady business going on, right? Under the table deals, things like that. But um, I think that's going to be an overhang for Visa. And of course, I'm looking at through my bear goggles. I'm biased for downside, but I think, especially since it's run in August, I think there's an opportunity at least for some profit taking. So, I have my puts. I assume they'll be solidly green at the open. I might look for some more puts if it breaks under 280 at the open, and I think it trades under 270 in the coming weeks. And you start looking at its moving average, the 50-day and the 200-day are pretty much right around 270, 271. So that would be a key spot. If that breaks, then you start looking at the gap it had back in the first 2 weeks of August. So again, I'm biased for downside. So when I look at, I'm looking at the chart more as someone who thinks there's an opportunity for profit taking. And I mean, you take a look at the chart, it went on a massive run. So I think there's opportunity there. All right, so that's Visa. And there was some analysts out this morning changing their tone and saying MasterCard's now their play of choice outside of Visa, because this suit may cause some overhang for quite some time. All right, so that's Visa. All right, so just some other names, and of course I always talk about the GLP-1 space, but GPCR had those double positive analyst comments yesterday. Morgan Stanley with coverage, I think it was $118 price target. Cantor Fitzgerald reiterating. So GPCR, and this is one of my top 5 stocks for this year, was all the way up to 62.50 or so back in June after its data. It's similar to what's happened with VKTX, Turn, Altimmune, and all these other GLP-1 plays. Seems to come under pressure after a rally. If it holds gains today, I might look for some calls to play for a move into the 50s in the coming weeks. I already talked about this for the last 2 days, but this Corbus Pharmaceuticals, CRBP. I always confuse the initials. I always think it's CBRP. It's CRBP. I'm still looking for some calls for a possible bounce. I think it's oversold, and its cancer study, which came out in January, at the end of January, it gapped the stock from under 10 all the way up to nearly $40, and then for it to sell off over 50% just because of bad data from NVO. And it's not even a read through. It's just people are assuming that, and CRBP doesn't even have a phase 1 study yet for their CB1 solution. It's still in the clinical stage. So I just think it's an opportunity for upside. I already talked about half its valuations in cash, so it has 140 million in cash. It's $290 million market cap. They already said it on their last earnings. They have cash runway through at least this year. I think all those ingredients together, opportunity for a bounce. So don't be surprised if I add some strikes. I was looking at the October 30s. Depending on what the premiums are in the 25s today, I might look for October 25s instead, or I might get both. So that's that. VKTX, I mean, it's another week, another same old story. Just disappointing. No news, no catalyst. It was over $70 finally. It hadn't broken that and held that for since back in May. And then what does it do? It gives it all back yesterday. Opens over 70 and just nonstop to the downside, closed down nearly 8%. Not going to change my game plan here, so I'll just continue to hold the October strikes. If and when it breaks over $75, then I'll look to get some more calls to play for more upside. At some point, there's got to be a trigger point for these shorts, and I thought 70 was it. Maybe it's 75. Hopefully, we get a chance to find out. That's that. Turn, not much here to add about Turn here. It's actually gapping a little bit here in the pre-market at $10. Still waiting for that 1070 handle to fall. Once that breaks, I'll add some more strikes there. Clear Secure had some news this morning. They added some more locations in like Buffalo. I think 4 more locations for their TSA pre-check enrollment. Anytime you see these additions for Clear, I think it just adds more to their addressable market, right? It adds more to the value proposition. So if you're a Clear member and they open more Clear check lines at Clear Secure lines at airports and all, that just adds to the value proposition for a traveler, business traveler, so on and so forth. That some of those award programs that they actually give the access to those customers, it just, again, it just adds, in my opinion, to their moat around their business. But hopefully, and got all the way down under 32 for the first time in a week or two. Held that 31.99 it came down to, and then bounced, closed it almost, well, came up to 33 at the end of the day before a little pull, 32.81. Still think it heads to 34 in the coming days, and then possibly 36. And I think that's it, folks. We got about 25 minutes to open. Let's have a great day. Rock and roll.